Yeah, so Lions and Jags this week. Big favorite are the Detroit Lions, a 14-point favorite against the Jags.
But that just lets you know that's something to think about. Think about this. Carlton Davis II, after a huge win against the Texans, now they're 8-1. They're the number one team in the NFC. Look at the intention in practice. Still hard, like still going after it, still getting after it, trying to become the best, like not taking it for granted. That you're sitting at 8-1. A lot of teams are 8-1. I've been on it turns into a little bit of an easier situation, and then you get popped, and then you don't know what happened. Kudos to Dan Campbell. Kudos for this team. Still 1-against-1. Carlton Davis II versus Amon-Ra St. Brown. This is what it takes to win. I hate that he broke it, but it's good that they're still getting it in.
I think it's just some sound, if we could. This is Dan Campbell talking about the team. This is one of those teams. I'm not sure there's a closer team in the NFL. I mean, this locker room is incredible. Here's Dan Campbell talking about the team camaraderie.
But to be able to put your ego aside for the guy next to you, and you say you care about him, well, you care about him enough to do everything it takes to get on the field and do your job and produce. And it should break your heart when you don't finish for a player next to you. You don't finish. You don't chase the ball down, and it turned into something bigger than it needed to be. Or you're not in the gap you're supposed to be in. And those should drive you and motivate you not to let the guy next to you. And that's the common thread in all great teams, man. That's how they function. That's how they work. It's how they practice. And they hold each other accountable. Like at some point, the coaches don't say anything. Like they're on each other's ass in a good way. And that's what we've got right now. We have that type of team, that type of players.
Ryan, that's championship football. Like, those are the teams that get to the dance. Those are the teams that stay consistent. When I was with the Browns, after practice, guys go and do their own thing. Guys are excited to get off the field. Guys are trying to get back home to their wives or to their video games, or they're eager to leave the facility. There was no holding each other accountable. There was none of that because you're a losing team. When I was with the Jets, when I was with the 49ers, when I was with the Seahawks in the Legion of Boom years, you're watching guys – you're sitting down and you're like unlacing your cleats, and then you see Golden Tate going back to the jug machine. You see Richard Sherman going back out there to get some reps in with Doug Baldwin to see how things look. And now you're like, I got to strap my you-know-what back on. It's time for me to go out there and get on the jug machine. It's time for me to run some extra routes. When you're on a team like that, where the culture is winning, when the culture is selfless, when the culture is family, you don't want to let that guy down to the left. You don't want to let that guy down to the right, because you see the work that they're putting in. They're putting work ultimately so that they're better at their job, so that you can be better at your job, so that when it comes February, you guys are hoisting the Lombardi trophy. Like, that's winning football, and I've seen it. I've seen it out of the 49ers who got to the Super Bowl, and I saw it out of Seattle who eventually won the Super Bowl. This is how you do it.
When we had Ben Fox on just a few minutes ago, our betting expert, or our gambler, I asked him about the Super Bowl team. He didn't mention the Lions. I think the Lions are the only pick. I know he was giving you picks that are overlays
and give odds,
right? Yeah. And odds. I understand that, but the Lions, I still think they're plus 600 to win the Super Bowl, and to me, that's pretty damn good odds for the best team in football. The only way this team is going to lose, is if they lose a person or two from this squad. Otherwise, they are running the table. That's all I got to say.
No doubt. And, it's just because of games like this. We're going to do Fill in the Blank Friday momentarily. And one of the questions that I start with is I'm so curious, and I feel like I know the answer to this, but most NFL teams, and I think that's fair to say, most NFL teams who are 8-1 would see this opportunity against the 2-8 Jacksonville Jaguars with a backup quarterback, and they would sleepwalk through this game.
Right.
I absolutely think the opposite in this game. I don't think the Lions are going to sleepwalk through this game. I think they're going to do exactly what they have to do. I think they're going to approach this like professionals, the professionals that they are, and a business trip to Ford Field. And that's who this team is. You talk about the camaraderie. You talk about playing for the guy next to you. And that's this coach, too. This is Dan Campbell talking about how he coaches his coaches, even. This is an organizational situation that these guys have. And one of the reasons why you will see what you will see on Sunday is because of things like this.
Well, number one, because those guys are going to be head coaches. eventually, whether it's now, whether it's later, whatever the case is. So it's good for them to see it, and it's also good for them to see the other side of it, to be able to see it from a defensive perspective on managing a game, to see it from an offensive perspective, managing a game. And then you do that and you figure out what's right for you. They know what's right for us because it's the way I see it. Eventually, when it becomes their team, they may see it a little differently. There may be a more conservative approach, there may be a more aggressive approach, but you just want to know that you have all the facts and you know how to, that you're able to put those into your own way of seeing it, and to make the best decision possible. It's been good for us.
There are 3 reasons why the Detroit Lions won't take this game lightly, Ryan Ermanni, and no one has any room to fear. 1, 5 interceptions last week is what Jared Goff has. And I don't care why the interceptions happened or whose deflection or whatever. There were 5 interceptions that went into his stat book. He's not that quarterback this year. He hasn't been that quarterback in a very long time. He's out to show you who he is this year. When's the last time the Lions were at home? You talked about it yesterday.
1 time since October 1st.
You don't think they're excited getting at home at Ford Field? Hear that crowd that has become one of the loudest, if not the loudest sound in the NFL? They're excited to get around there. And then also the first half for defense of that Texans game. Like, the Texans did whatever they wanted to in the passing game. Run game was still sound and still stout. But in that passing game, the Texans looked like the team that C.J. Stroud was last year. That's what they want to clean up on defense. That's what Jared Goff wants to clean up on offense. And they're excited to be back at the crib. It's nothing like being 8-1 and being at home. Like, it's a fun feeling. I have been 8-1 and been at home. It's nothing like it. The crowd goes wild because they know that you're that much closer to the goal they believe in anyway as a Super Bowl.
This is one of the games that I think the regular Joe can go to because this game will probably be less expensive than all the other games.
I'm going.
Right. You're finally going. You see?
Go with my dad.
You're finally going. All right? The other games you make the other games you make money on. This game you actually can go and relax and watch your team play. Maybe not stand in too long of a line at Barry's stand to get his cheesesteaks.
This is the preseason game you go to.
That's what I mean. This is it. I'm sorry, Jacksonville. You guys are a mess. I know you're a professional team, but you have no idea what you're walking into.
Yeah, and to make things even better, and I'm sorry if you guys had this clip, don't mean to spoil it, but Ben Johnson coming out challenging the offense, saying we need to pick up the slack. Like, during a game like this, during a week like this, like, I think the Lions are absolutely going to come in here and handle business, man. It's going to look a lot similar to that Titans game, maybe even worse.
And don't forget on defense, you're adding a player.
Yeah.
Big number 99's first game is Detroit Lions. I think this is going to be another shellacking, but I think it looks a lot different than the Tennessee Titans ass whooping. I think this one start to finish on both sides of the ball and special teams.
Talk to me about that, Braylon, because I mean, it just I don't know much about this. You would be the guy to tell.
You know more than you think.
Well, I'm just saying, when you have a defensive player trade, I know for offensive players, especially wide receivers, I mean, you might know 3 or 4 route trees or something like that, but it takes time to develop a relationship with a quarterback. It takes time to learn the plays. It takes time to develop a chemistry. Does the same apply for defensive players, specifically defensive linemen? What's that transition like, do you think?
Yeah, every player has to take time to learn the full scheme to know, like, what is my required assignment on each play within this scheme, within this system, where you want me. And then for a defensive lineman, defensive end, it's the stunts. It's the games that they play. That's when it takes time. It takes 3-4 weeks to learn. How's Lee McNeil? How am I going to work with DJ Reader? What does Aaron Glenn want from me? But in terms of understanding how an offense plays, looking at a tackle's technique, knowing what the down and distance is, knowing what your job is on assignment, going to get the quarterback or holding firm so you're setting the edge. Like, this is like playing football in college for a guy like Darius Smith that's this good, that is operated at this high of a level. So I think he'll be much more effective than most people think in the beginning. But they want to ask him to play and learn that scheme. And now he's doing stunts. Now he's doing games to where it's like, how's he been playing this long? They'll keep it simple, but I think he'll occupy well in that simple space.